I hope you guys are doing well this Monday morning. I had said before in one of my posts last Thursday or Friday that I'd be on today. So let me just get my life together, wait for YouTube to tell people that I'm here, and then we can get started talking about our update for the weekend, what we did, how the weekend went, some things that we were able to accomplish, as well as discuss the topic at hand, which is caregivers, the loved one that you have that needs care, whether or not they need a companion or a caregiver. There is a difference. There is a difference. And then we'll talk about a new release, and we're going to do all that in 30 minutes. And then your girl's going to get off. So hopefully people will be able to jump on. If you're watching this later on in the evening or tomorrow when it posts, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and also share with other people so that they're aware of the channel and the content so that they know, like I said, and I keep on saying, we all are caregivers. We all, at some point in our time, either we're parents that are taking care of our young people, or we are simply, gonna need help in making determinations and decisions for older people that we love. It could be our parents or even our spouses or peers. So at some point in your life, you're going to be a caregiver or you're going to be the recipient of care. And so we want to make sure that we understand what that entails and what that means. I got some notes here because I have a new release. And so we're going to talk about that. That's going to be on my Etsy shop as well. But let's get into Motivational Monday. Don't let small things distract you. Don't. What do I mean by that? So here's the illustration this morning. I'm getting ready. You ever had an eyelash in your eye? It's light, one of those thinner ones. You really can't see it that well. It can literally stop you in your tracks. I was getting ready this morning. Eyelash fell in my eye. I had to stop what I was doing to remove it. It was such an irritation and a distraction. And that's how it can be in life. When we are setting goals, when we have things to accomplish, we sometimes let the smaller things that really shouldn't be that much of a hindrance, stop us from what we're doing. It becomes a distraction. It becomes something that we have to address immediately. But yet, sometimes, even though it may be a priority, it is something that could actually discourage you from accomplishing your goals. And that's not something that we ever want to happen. We want to be able to take life's small distractions, address them, and keep on moving. How does that help you when you're giving care? Well, sometimes you're going to have distractions. You're going to have unexpected plans and events come up. That's going to be absolutely normal. However, if you let those distractions deter you from your overall goal, if you let negativity from other people deter you from your overall goal, how is that ever going to help you to achieve that goal? So, just keep in mind, Motivational Monday, because it's Monday morning, hard for us to get moving. Don't let the distractions from life deter you from accomplishing things that are important to you, setting priorities, making those goals, and moving forward. It's Motivational Monday. That's what we have for motivation starting off this morning. Don't let the small things stop you from gaining and making your goals and accomplishing your dreams. Good morning to everyone who hopped on, everyone who's going to look at this video later. Motivational Monday. Happy Monday for you. We're going to get the week started. We're going to keep on moving because that's what we do as caregivers. We get in, we get out, okay? So this past weekend, I always talk about caregivers and the need for us to be able to take some time off and just make sure that we are okay. So if you watch my video, this clip on Friday, I was able to get some downtime. And I'm be honest with you, sometimes you can get into a rut because we're so busy worrying about other people, providing for other people, and making sure their needs are taken care of, that we forget how important it is for us to take some time out. So this Friday, I was able to get some time off. I went to a candlelight concert with two of my kids, and it was so relaxing as a caregiver. I needed that. And so hopefully you got a chance to do that too. And then Saturday, I ran all around, it seemed like the city, trying to do shopping because I go to the farmer's market and then I go to a warehouse to do shopping. So this weekend was filled with activity and I was exhausted yesterday. Happy Monday to everyone who jumped on. Let me know who's jumped on. Say hello. I hope you guys had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Hey, Zay. I hope you guys were able to get some downtime. I hope you guys were able to relax because as caregivers, let me tell you something. You need to take that time off. I know I can tell you one thing. I didn't even feel like going. When my daughter told me about the candlelight concert, I was like, I don't want to go. Because I'm tired. I run around. I think we all understand that as caregivers, right? We run around. Juice Work World. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. And so I didn't want to do it, but sometimes when you force yourself to do something that you don't want to do, you have the best time. And it was relaxing, and I needed that, right? I was the person in the audience, waving and dancing and enjoying the music. It was everything. It was hip hop music that was set to a quartet. So it was really, really a string quartet. So it was really interesting. I did a little small video excerpt. And so, I was happy. Charles Ross, hi, how are you? Thank you guys for hopping on this morning. So, this channel is about caregiving, right? This is what it's about because I put it in the title. And you guys, if you've been watching me for quite some time, you know that that's what we do. Monday morning, we got to get pumped because we have things to do. And like I said, we spent a half an hour on Monday morning talking about caregiving and why it's so important, especially if you're a caregiver. If you're a parent, you're a caregiver. If you're someone who's been hired to provide care, guess what? You're a caregiver. If you have a spouse that's incapacitated or a parent that is incapacitated and you provide care services or hire someone, this is what this channel is about. So for those newly joining, thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Give me some likes, double tap the screen. That would be greatly appreciated. The rest of this will be caught by other people who will hopefully watch it later on. Well, you know what? You have a loved one. Good morning. Good morning, Prakash. You have a loved one who needs care. The thing is, you don't know if they need a companion or if they need a caregiver. And it's so important that we, thank you, Charles, I appreciate it. It's so important that we notice the difference, right? Because you could be looking for services for your loved one, but not exactly know where to go or what the difference is. I know a lot of people who are caregivers, and I know a lot of people who are simply companions. And not to even say that one is more important than the other, but there are different roles. And so, just so you guys know, in my Etsy store, and this is, I'm gonna be reading some notes in my Etsy store, because I want to provide not only content for YouTube and other social media, but I'm also providing a resource website. And that's what I was working on this weekend too, to make sure that when you begin your caregiving services, or if you're well on your journey, you know how to make those good decisions for those who need care. And so we have the companion or caregiver hiring guide. Okay, this is a new release that will be dropping later on today. And the reason why I created this is because the roles of a companion and a caregiver, they are different, right? And so I wanted people to be able to look at someone who they love and say, maybe they are not at a point where they need a caregiver. This person actually can manage pretty well. They are mobile and they can actually, get around. They can administer their own medications, but they're isolated and they're alone. And so sometimes as caregivers, we need to be able to identify, or I should say family members, we need to be able to identify the actual needs of our loved one. It may not be that we're ready to say they need care right now, right? It may not be that we're ready to say, you know what? We need to look for someone to come in and provide that care. It could just be simply they need someone to sit with them. And so there is a difference. I'm going to be reading from some of my notes. I put all of this information on my Etsy website, which I'm going to talk about in another video after this, so that you guys are able to make that determination whether or not your loved one needs actually a companion or a caregiver. Once again, if I didn't say it for those who are hopping on and hopping off, good morning to everyone. Happy Monday. We're not going to be distracted this week as we move about our responsibilities for a week. This week, we're going to get our goals accomplished and make our dreams happen. That's what we're going to be focusing on this week. And so when you look at someone who is aging, someone who is living alone, someone who feels isolated. Hello, Cheyenne, how are you? Someone who is feeling isolated, someone who doesn't have that constant conversation that they need in order to stay engaged with humanity. We often make assumptions that that person immediately needs care. But the person can get around on their own, they can make decisions on their own, they can actually function pretty well without the assistance of someone else. They can still bathe and take care of their hygiene. They actually can still provide nourishment for themselves. If they can't get out to a store because they are, grocery store, because they are a little timid about being with, without people in society, they know at least how to order food to come to their home or their groceries. Because now here in the States, we do have that capability in certain areas or a lot of areas to make those grocery lists or needs care to a certain degree. that person may need simply a companion. A companion will help them to stay engaged. A companion will help them to stay mentally stimulated. And that's so important to recognize the difference. We often think and we often feel the moment we see some decline in some cognitive abilities that we automatically need to get a caregiver. But it may be because that person needs just some interaction with people. That person needs to have some kind of human element, to help them stay mentally intact and to not degrade mentally. A lot of older people are living on their own and they don't have human interaction. And they don't even know how to approach that conversation to say, you know what, I just need someone to talk to. And unfortunately, if you're in that sandwich generation, which we most of us fall into, we've got parents that we're taking care of, and we are parents ourselves, and we are working with our young people. We may not have the time all the time to dedicate to spend a lot of time with our loved ones. Does not mean that we don't love them. That is not what that translates into. But we are definitely, unfortunately, in this society, we're very busy. We're very busy. We're always running around. We work ourselves. We have chores and errands. And so, if you're in that sandwich generation, you may find it difficult to sit with your loved one. You may find it difficult to spend time on end, right, with them, engaging them mentally so that they feel stimulated. Once again, thanks to everyone who hopped on this Monday morning. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. I hope you're starting your day off right. If you're already into your Monday, I hope it's going well for you. We're talking about the difference and recognizing the difference between having a companion or a caregiver. And so, getting back into our story, drop me a comment and let me know who you are and where you're from, and we'll continue. And so, let's just say, wait a minute, guys. All right. Because we always have this, right? If you with me regularly, we always have to put some people in timeout because the content of this segment is really to talk about caregivers. Okay, so I put some people in timeout. I gave them some care, okay? And then we'll move on. And so sometimes when we look at our people, our parents, our loved ones, we may not have the time because we have got to take care of financial responsibilities. We've got to take care of other people as well, in addition to make sure that their care is top notch. We want to make sure that they're okay. And the way that we do that is to determine whether or not they need a companion or a caregiver. A companion is simply that. They are going to sit with people, the person, they're going to engage them mentally. They could play games with them. They're going to take away that element of loneliness. And you guys, the reason why I'm looking down a little bit more when we do this live is because y'all know I got this new release, right? So I want to make sure I'm giving you guys information that's going to be found in this packet so that you all are able to make that decision, companion versus caregiver, because what they do is different. And so what you can expect and ask a companion to do will be different from what you ask that caregiver to do, right? And so you want to make sure that caregiver is going to do everything mostly that a companion does, but they are going to not have to, the companion is not going to have to worry about things like medication. I may give them a reminder as a companion, but if that person is capable of handling their own medications, either picking them up or administering them, then that person will still be left with that responsibility of taking their medications, making sure that they're on time. So the whole purpose of a companion is really to engage and keep that person stimulated mentally and emotionally, and that makes them feel like they're not isolated from human society. We know how it is. Have you ever spent time alone? For those of you who are out there, have you ever lived alone? And so I remember when I first moved out of my parents' home and I was a young woman, I wanted to be on my own, right? I was working full time. I was working a full time job and a part time job. And I wanted to do other things and pursue thinking about moving out of the country because I've always been interested in that. That's still also something that really gets to me, right? And I really want to pursue that eventually. And hopefully we'll see how it works. But I know as a young woman, when I moved out of my parents' home, when you're used to having so much noise, when you're used to having so many people in and out the house, when you're used to engaging and interacting with people every day when you're home, and then to move into a situation where there's no one, right? I got into that apartment. I moved into an apartment. My friends moved me in. And when the last person left, I was completely by myself. And I thought that I was going to lose it that night. It took me about a good 3 weeks to transition to living alone. It took me a while to recognize that when I came home, that there was going to be no one there to talk to and interact with. Now, imagine an elderly person who's going through that. They're used to raising their children. Well, the kids are all grown and they've moved away with their grandchildren, right? Imagine them being isolated in their home and not having anybody to really communicate with and talk to. So, with that being said, it's a difference, right? It is a difference. It is something that can cause an older person to kind of mentally start to decline. Not because anything is really wrong with them, they still function, they still handle their business, right? But they don't have that human interaction. That's why if you ever go over to a lot of people's houses when they're older, they got the TV on. The TV will run 24/7 because they need that human interaction, even though it's not a conversation. Thank you, Mario. How are you? Even though it's not a conversation, even though they're not interacting with someone who's on the TV, and after a while, you may see them do that. Let's be real. You may see them start to respond to the TV and have conversations with the different people that they watch if they watch a regular show. And then you'll start to see them talk to themselves and they'll tell you about people that they've seen on the TV. But that comes from not having that human element, right? And so that interaction is so important when you have an older person that lives alone because you have to keep them in contact with humanity. And so with that, that's where a companion would come in. You want to make sure there's some questions though, right? Parasocial behavior. Yeah, you want to make sure that, you're providing that if you're looking to get a companion for a loved one. And so a companion's going to do that. They're going to play games with them. They're going to make sure that they're stimulated. They're going to make sure they give them reminders. I really think that the whole point, whether you get a companion or a caregiver, the whole point is to keep our loved ones stimulated, right? Your mom is close to her 70s and works 7 days a week. I believe she does it to stay mentally sound. Yeah, yeah, you have a lot of older people who are entering back into the work world, Mario. And I know that. My mother in law still works, right? I'm not saying, and heaven forbid she watch this, I'm not saying she's old, but I'm saying she's an older woman and she still works. And so there is that desire to stay connected to humanity. And we all need that human element, right? We know how important it is to interact with others and not isolate ourselves. The mental decline and degradation can go down rapidly when you take that human element out. By the way, good morning to everyone who's hopped on. Thank you so much. We're talking about whether or not a person needs a companion or a caregiver and how that impacts our loved ones if you're looking to hire either a caregiver or a companion, which is what this channel is about. The reason why is because I'm a caregiver, right? Many of you know, if you've joined my channel or watched my channel, I take care of my mom. She is elderly. I watched and helped her after my dad passed away suddenly. And so this has become something that's passionate for me. It's been near and dear at heart. What I have not started to discuss yet is what it means also to take care and be a caregiver to your spouse. Because at one time, my former husband was an open heart patient and I was his caregiver. So there are different roles that we play with different people in need as far as caregivers. But what is always important is that human element. And also just to recognize, we may not want a caregiver right at the offset. We've got to determine what the needs of the person are. We want to keep them as independent for as long as possible. If that person was someone who's a go-getter, they were always the one working, try to keep them engaged and keep them independent as long as you can, because that keeps them emotionally and mentally sound and also stimulated to keep moving. I'm going to tell you, when I hit 70, 80, 90, or whatever, I still want to be engaged, right? I still want to be able, hopefully, to be mobile. So, Mario, I might be one of those women who, I'm going to work. I am going to work, and I don't think I'll ever stop working because I have so many interests. And as time continues to pass me by, I want to make sure that some of them I can get done, right? And so we want to make sure that we're able to determine whether or not someone needs a companion or a caregiver. So here's some of the things you want to look for. And what I'm going to read to you is some of the things that you'll find once again on my Etsy store, this new guide that I'm launching today. the companion or caregiver hiring guide. Okay, yes, it keeps your mind young. It keeps your mind young. And so I'm going to review some of the things that you should look for if you're actually thinking about hiring a companion. We're going to get into what you should look for as far as a caregiver. We've started that series. So go ahead and look on my channel because I've dropped some things on there, and I will drop another segment today about what you should look for if you're thinking about hiring a caregiver for your loved one. And so, yes, it keeps your mind young. I remember Mario, my dad would say, up here, he was 18, even though his body was older, right? And so that engagement, that connection, that staying mobile, staying in tune with other people helps to keep their mind young. But here's the thing, if you're thinking about hiring a companion as opposed to a caregiver, there are definitely things you want to look for. And there are definitely things that you still have to ask if you're looking to hire a companion for your loved one. So here's a couple of them. Make sure they are personally compatible as far as their personality. You can look at and tell me guys, tell me guys if you understand this. There are people, the older I get, I can meet someone and say, and after talking to them for a while, because I don't ever like to just judge people. I don't judge people. I talk to my kids about that all the time. Take someone at face value, even if you've heard other things about people, get to know them yourself, right? Because just like you're imperfect, they're imperfect. But after getting to know someone, I can pretty much tell whether or not our personalities are going to click. I can pretty much tell whether or not I'm going to get along with that person. And I've actually told my husband, for example, this person and I, I like them, don't get me wrong, but I know my personality is not going to click with them. I tend to be a little strong-willed, and my husband's strong-willed just like I am. So, so as I've gotten older, and I do that because I don't want to cause offense to people. So if I'm a very strong-willed person and I'm very vocal, and that person's really introverted and subdued, it can affect them. And I want to be conscious of the fact that that may actually be a little bit too much for them, right? And so you take care of your mom, Queen. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Y'all drop some commendation in the chats for Queen Squip because I do the same thing, Queen Squip. I do the same thing. And so it's not easy, but we're here to help them because they took care and nurtured us so much. Okay, so as far as personality, if you're looking for a companion, and Queen Script, when you need a break, you're going to need a companion or someone to fill in, right? Don't forget to take your breaks. I'm telling you because you don't want to burn out. And so having a companion may be beneficial for you to be able to come in. If you don't have family members and friends who can sit with her from time to time, allow you to get a break, then, do that. Make sure you hire someone or get some family members and friends engaged who can help. Belinda, how are you? Now, Belinda, you've been with me on quite a few lives. And so good morning to you. And blessings to you and your family as well. Queen Script, she retired at 49, but that was not good. I'm exhausted. So here's what we're talking about, whether or not you need to get a companion or a caregiver for your mom. Now, I know Queen Script, you said that you're the caregiver because you're taking care of her full time. I empathize because I'm living that life as well, right? But I've also seen the need, Queen Script, to have that community around me. I've got 5 young people that help me take care of my mother. And if you watch my channel, you'll see they all have a hand, from the 23-year-old all the way down to the 8-year-old. We all have a role to play in taking care of grandma. But then there are times as a family unit where I've had to take my kids away, and just not take them away because of anything that my mom's done, but just because they need a break and because we all get exhausted. And so what have I done? I've built a community, right? A personal community. I sat down with my mom and said, who do you feel comfortable with? Right? Who wouldn't you mind spending time with you if we go away for a weekend or a week so that we can reinvigorate ourselves and keep on moving? And so those people are not necessarily her caregivers, they're companions, or, they're ones that will offer assistance. And they happily do so, which is a benefit to us because we get a chance to have some downtime, right? And so, Queen Script, I please advise you, because you tell me you're exhausted, to start looking different ways you can get some companions or some other caregivers if that's needed to really, really, really get that support that you need. Because yeah, you let me tell you something. You need the break. This can be overwhelming. And not only physically, and you guys know this because we've talked about this on this channel before. It's not only physically exhausting and overwhelming at times, but it can be emotionally hurtful when you see someone that was so full of life and vital and the decline of their health. It can hurt you mentally and emotionally. Have I had those moments where I've broken down and cried seeing my mom's condition? Absolutely. Absolutely. It gets to me, right? I know she's hurting and I don't want to show her that, right? I don't want her to see me fall apart. And she'll know because she knows me well enough. When I walk in her room, she knows if I've been crying and emotional, right? But I try not to display that. But when I hear her cry out, when I hear her in pain, when I know there's nothing I can do about that, and even though, Queen Script, I'm addressing this to you, this is for everybody. It can take a toll on you emotionally as well. So you need a mental and emotional break. You got to find other people who can actually help stimulate you. You've got to get some support system in place so that it's not full time and you can even walk away. Now, walking away and getting a break, thank you so much for the likes. Walking away and getting a break does not mean that you don't love your mom or the person that you all are giving care to. That's not what this means, guys. Okay? I'm never going to walk away from my mom. As I've said in different videos, that's my ride or die chick. Okay? That's the original OG. All right? But what it means is that I need to take care of myself in order to continue to provide that care that she so lovingly deserves. Because if I break down, the system breaks down. Okay? If I fall apart, I'm not there for her and I'm not there for my young people who still need me and I'm not there for my husband. Okay? And so you have to really make sure, Queen Script, that you help her to appreciate that. Have that conversation with her that you need to have a break. It may not be for a week. It may be just, can I get a weekend? Can I get a Thursday to a Sunday and just go somewhere and just relax? Can I just get something that's going to help me to just recollect myself so I can come back? And what we'll find, yes, Queen Script and everybody, what we find is when we take those moments, it could be an evening off just to breathe. When you take those moments, you come back stronger. You come back better, right? Because now you remembered. We so often, and here's another thing about caregiving, we will lose ourselves. And our only function and how we identify ourselves will be as caregivers, right? It got to a point, people would ask me, oh, I didn't get, nobody knew me as who I am, right? They always addressed me as so and so's mom, so and so's daughter. I started to lose my identity. And people, that can happen when you're so focused on taking care of other people's needs. You lose your identity and you lose things that will. A 2-day visit will be good, yes. And so what you want to do is go back, go take some time for yourself so you don't lose yourself and who you are. Because over a period of time, you will forget. And you got to reconnect with your interests. Reconnect with passions that you have because that will give you a drive to say, you know what? Okay, I had a couple of days off. I'm good for the next month or so. And even in between that time, Queen Script, make sure you're talking about a 2-day visit will be good. Take some time yourself, even in the evenings, if you're carving out some time. I just need an hour to sit back and take some air and just read something and just close my eyes and relax. Can you give me an hour? If she's able to be left alone for an hour or half an hour, take that time to breathe. Take that time to breathe. And also make sure that your schedule is tight. Now, things can happen. In the beginning of this live, I talked about distractions, right? Distractions can stop you right when you're ready to get motivated to move on. But you overcome the distractions, you keep on moving. So if caregiving is what you do, trust me, you're going to have distractions. You always have to have a plan B, plan C, plan D, probably all the way up to Z. Let's be real. However, don't let the distractions stop you from buying out and carving out some time for yourself and setting up a schedule so that you know when you need to do something. Find little tricks that will help you. Like yesterday, Saturday, I ran around going to farmers markets because I like the produce better. So I took one of my kids, I did the produce market, and then I went to a warehouse. I went to Costco's, if you guys are familiar with that is. It's like BJ's and Sam's. And I did grocery shopping for the entire house. I set aside and I told my oldest daughter, I asked her and her husband, if they could cook dinner for everyone because I was exhausted. So as a caregiver, I need to delegate. Sunday, yesterday, I cooked enough food to last us for about 3 days, right? So with a schedule, that way I'm not feeling overwhelmed. I have stuff in place so when she's ready to eat by a certain time for her medicines, we are good to go. And so, if you are caregiving, look for ways to take some of that emotional stress off of yourself, the physical stress off of yourself. Do not be afraid to delegate responsibility to other people while you build that support system. Now, next month, I am traveling out of the country because your girl need a break. Girl need a break. And I am going to thank you, Queen Script. Don't forget to, yes, make that trip. Go to make breakfast and do medications. We all have to have a schedule. You know, if you're a parent, you are a caregiver. And as parents, we have schedules for our children. So please make sure if you're a caregiver, you have a schedule that's tight for your loved one if you're the one providing care. So next month, you guys, I'm still gonna be doing lives. I'm on a countdown because many of you also know I'm a Niger wife. So my husband is not here yet. So I'm gonna go spend time with my husband, but I'm still gonna be on doing my lives and we still gonna be doing this caregiver community because even though I will be overseas, I'm still gonna be running things here. Cause that's what I do. So, guys, shameless plug because you know it's coming. And I say a half an hour because your girl got to work. My mom's on the schedule. I know what time she's waking up. I got to have my day well into it and well started before we get into it. Thank you guys so much for hopping on this Monday morning. Once again, I couldn't do Thursday morning because I had to have an appointment, but I'm back and I'm revitalized. Couple of things. Don't forget to go to my Etsy store. You'll see this coming out soon. This is the companion or caregiver hiring guide. There are questions in here that will help you to utilize and determine whether or not you need a companion for your loved one or a caregiver because the roles are a little bit different, and also help you determine where your loved one is in that process. And then if I got to hire one, what do I want to know? What do I want to know about their personality, their standards, their tactics, their plans of service? This is what we're going to talk about in this companion or caregiver guide. It's going to be dropping in my Etsy store later today. And also, my website. Y'all know I've been working behind the scenes. I need to connect more with the caregiver community because there's such a broad field and things that we need to do to support one another. So, guess what? We are going to work it out, okay? And that's what we're going to continue to do. Queen Script, you know where I'm going, girl. Can't wait. That's my other home, okay? Happy Monday, everyone. This is your girl, Essie. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, share. I'm out.